Turkey. People go there for their holidays, don't they? But what, fifth day of rioting now? It's very serious stuff indeed. It's a complex and fascinating nation. What was the sick man of Europe, Ottoman Empire, massive Islamic empire. When people talk about imperialism, they think about the Western countries. It was the Ottoman Empire that had most of the Middle East, committed terrible atrocities too, by the way. The past few years under an Islamic light government, and the Prime Minister, whatever you will say, got 50% of the vote. That's way more than any Canadian leader would get. The economy is growing 7 or 8% of the year, a bit artificial, but it is growing. The country is fairly secure. It's become radicalized in its foreign policy, has a huge military, part of the Western alliance. This all started, this demonstration, because there was a housing estate to be built and a shopping mall next to it with a mosque in a park, and there was a minor demonstration which the police responded to quite brutally, and now it's really divided the country. Alessandro Bruno, who's a Middle East expert, joins us now by Skype. Alessandro, this is Turkey. This is civilized, relatively civilized Turkey. This is not part of the Arab world. These are people who have a huge number of urban dwellers who want to be Western and revere the West. What's going to happen?
Well, it's very interesting. The whole revolt started because, first of all, Gezi Park, the subject or the object of this new shopping mall that's being built, has some connection to the Prime Minister. I believe his son-in-law or one of his relatives is going to benefit considerably from the shopping mall because it's going to carry a chain of stores that he owns. So there is that aspect of it. But more important even than the shopping mall, I think, is that this protest signifies a clear rejection of the plans to Islamize society even further. And this is what's been going on. And this is, I think, the real crux of the matter, because it really affects also Turkey's foreign policy, and which is one of the main reasons behind the anger.
Okay, let's talk about this, because quite clearly there are huge numbers of people who are protesting. When you say Islamicizing the country, no public consumption of alcohol, there was this nonsense about Turkish flight attendants, the women, not the men, wearing lipstick and this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But you talk about the country saying no. There are terms that are used in Turkey. You'll be familiar with them. I just want to explain them to people what they mean. White Turk and black Turk. It has nothing to do with your skin color, but white Turks are meant to be people who they live in the major cities. They listen to Western music. They're not very religious. They look to the West. Black Turks more in other regions, Asia Minor. They're more Islamic. They look to the Arab world more. Those people may not be demonstrating, but they may well still be the majority now of Turks. Are we convinced that the mass of Turkish people do not approve of this regime?
Well, here's the problem. One of the main, the support for the PDK, Erdogan's party, is not from the popular, it's not from the low class, it's actually from the wealthy business Sunni class. The problem here is also, while Turkey is doing somewhat better than Europe, particularly better than its Mediterranean counterparts, it's a bit of a bubble. It's a construction bubble which could crash at any moment. And this deal between Erdogan and the Sunni business elite could crash with it. The other issue is that in 2015, Turkey may go to a presidential model, in which case Erdogan will like to become president because he's due. He cannot run for prime minister again. So there's this aspect of it. And also, the population of Turkey is much more mixed than before. We have the Sunni majority, but there's a very fast rising Alevi minority. It's about 1/5 of the country. Alevis are related to the Alawites in Syria, and they do not appreciate actually Turkey's position vis-a-vis the Assad government. And the Alevis tend to be extremely secular. They live in very secular lifestyle. Yeah. The other rising communities are the Kurds. And it won't be long before the Kurds will be the main source of soldiers for the draft. So,
really? That's fascinating, because the Kurds have been treated so badly by the Turks. Close links between Israel and the Kurds in other parts of Kurdistan. They're going to be in the military in large numbers. You have the Syrian war now bleeding over into Turkey, arms coming from Turkey to the rebels in Syria. So the idea of a stable, economically growing and robust Turkey, what we see here is that's not quite the truth.
Well, it's shaking. A lot of this, the Turkey's wealth is being based a lot on construction. And guess where a lot of the funds are coming from, which explains some of the strange Sharia moves.
Saudi Arabia?
Of course.
Yeah.
The Gulf was pumping lots of money in Egypt as well. It was actually pumping lots of money in Syria before the revolt, when Syria and Turkey were very close buddies. But it's going to be quite interesting because there is actually a strong majority of people and in fact the protests are spreading now to various cities now, predictably in the coast, but even closer to Ankara, the old capital, Konya, and so on. The protests are spreading, and the Syrian stance, Erdogan's Syrian stance, is one of the main reasons here. Erdogan's gotten very close, not to the Palestinian National Authority, but to Hamas.
Yeah.
It's definitely been pushing the agenda against Assad in Syria, and many Turks know that of all the Arab countries, Syria was the most secular, and they're wondering why they're not. It's a further sign of this Islamization, and they're going to stop it before it comes down to the Sharia declaration. Can you imagine if it went to referendum? So it's a combination of factors that's going on. Some nepotism and a lot of foreign policy problems.
Right. It is intriguing, not if you're living there, it must be extremely frightening and worrying, but it is intriguing. A massive army, the generals who were secular and political have been arrested or have simply disappeared. Huge numbers of political prisoners in that country, but the army is still large, and there are many, I think, more amongst junior officers who are suspicious of what the Prime Minister does intend to do. We'll keep on with this one because it's vital, and Turkey and the situation, the challenges, that they're not going away. Thank you, my friend. A great pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.